Hi, it's Danielle here from the Teaching Entrepreneur Association, and I wanted to discuss with you about the attention span of our students and how long it is that they stay actually focused and concentrating in our lessons. So let's start by thinking about the attention span of a student. So when they walk into the classroom, the first few minutes they're chatting and what have you, and then we get down to business and we start actually teaching them. The thing is that within the first 10-15 minutes, the first 5 minutes they're doing really well, and then their attention span drops off. First 10 to 15 minutes, and then it really just sort of wanes off. So here's a graph showing you the attention span in a 1 and also a 2 hour lesson. So let's start with the 2 hour lesson. So this is in pink, bright pink, the line. Can you see that after 10 to 15 minutes, the attention span drops, and then for the next 45 minutes, it just carries on down, until we get towards the end of the session, and it starts to come back up. The last 5 minutes, nowhere near to the level as it was at the beginning of the session, but it starts to come back up. However, if, as you can see, there's a green block there that says break time. If you put a break in on a session, on a 2 hour session, so perhaps you've done the first hour, you then, as you can see in the orange, take a 15-minute or a 10-minute break. Can you see how their attention span goes straight back up, and it stays up there again for the next 15 minutes and then drops off towards the end? The first 10-15 minutes are the most important in a lesson, because that's when you've got their concentration, that's when you've got their full attention and their focus. It then drops off, but if you have a break, it's so important to make your students have a break if they don't want to take one, even if it's just 5 minutes, simply because it actually gives them the energy and the focus, the concentration for the next 15 minutes of the second part of your lesson, and then it drops off again. So now we come to my top tips. So the first one I think is probably self-explanatory, in that you've got to mix up your teaching activities. There's no point in just lecturing at students and just keeping on talking, because they will get bored. And don't forget also, you think, I'll mix that up with a bit of note taking, so they're sat there taking the notes. It's also true that whilst they're taking notes, the quality and the standard of the notes that they take at the beginning of the session is far higher than the quality at the end, because again, they've lost the focus and their concentration. So what I would say to you is, the best way to alleviate this is to mix up your activities. Do something practical. Give them a video to watch, and don't forget, ask them some questions, things to look out for while they're watching the video. Another thing I like to do is use, if I'm going to do a lecture, is actually to change it into a discussion, because it's best to ask students questions, get their views, because then they are engaged with what you're teaching. Break them up into groups or pairs, give them work to do, but don't just lecture the whole way through, because they will get bored and struggle to concentrate. My second tip is about motivation. Students mainly come to our classes because they want to be there, unlike children. And we've got to really use all the powers of persuasion we have to hook their interest and to motivate them and make them really want to learn with us. So I always try and find out as much as I can about a student. Why have they come along to the session? What is it that they want to learn? What are their interests? Because all these golden nuggets of information I can then use to hook them in, but also to motivate them. So for example, I had a lovely student who was a bricklayer, and he was always being asked to share his skills with others when he was out on site. So he came along to learn how to teach, and he needed a qualification so that he would get a pay rise. So his motivation behind coming was quite enormous. So what I tried to do was, when I was talking to him or giving him exercises or examples, was to motivate him by using bricklaying. Okay, I don't know much about bricklaying, but I knew enough that I could tease him in and motivate him to make him see that what I was talking about was really valid and really relevant to what he was doing, which in turn motivated him. My third tip for you is all about looking at your lesson plan. And this was something that a long time ago, one of my lecturers suggested was a really good idea. And I think it is, and I often use it myself, is look at your lesson plan and look at the teacher and the student activities. Who's doing the most talking? If you find that you're doing 3/4 of the talking for 9/10 of the lesson, quid pro quo, perhaps you're talking too much, perhaps you're losing the concentration of your students. So what I would suggest to you is that as you're going down and looking at your lesson plan and looking at how you're planning your activities and everything, try to make sure that you doing all the talking is limited to a short period of time and that there's more activities and more hands-on. I'm of the opinion that students getting involved in what we're doing rather than just listening to me talk is far more valuable and supports their learning than ever just standing there lecturing. Don't get me wrong, lecturing has got a place and sometimes you have to do that. But what I'm trying to say is don't make it the be-all and end-all of every lesson. Here at T, we're always creating new how-to guides, new top tips, tutorials, checklists, worksheets, templates, and so much more. The reason we do this is to help you learn and progress further and to really nail what I've been talking about. Don't forget, click on the link below to receive yours and to take this topic to the next level. I hope you found that useful. As always, I've got a whole load more top tips to help you to keep your students' attention. So if you want the top tips, click on the link and I'll send it to you. Okay, till next time.